What is up, everyone? We are live. Welcome back to another episode of the Comeback Live. I'm pulling up Instagram right now so we can say hi to our friends on Instagram. I'm really excited, guys. This is MDC history right now. MDC history. I'm bringing on my lawyer client that if you've been following the MDC vlog, you've seen my lawyer client throughout the entire project. And you've heard about him. Now you actually get to meet him. So my lawyer client, he found out about the project recently. And if you watched the last episode of the MDC vlog, you got to see him in the vlog. In case you missed it, you should go check it out. So today he's coming on as a guest. So I was like, he's been incredible, by the way. I was kind of nervous what people are going to think when they actually find out about the project. But he's been so supportive and incredible. And I'm really excited to bring him on so you guys can see like someone I've been working with this whole time actually talk a little bit about the project, but also he runs a 20 plus employee law firm with his wife and partner. And he's an awesome guy. Like, we're not just going to talk about the project here. Like, he's grown a law firm to 20 plus employees. That's incredible. He's totally done such an amazing job in his local area. And I've learned a lot from him just working with him. So without further ado, come with your questions ready. And I'm going to bring him on now. See if this works.
What's up?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, great to be on MDC. Thanks for inviting me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know if you could hear me when you're in that room or not, but yeah, making MDC history. I know a lot of people are really excited to meet you and hear from you, because this is just like super interesting. So I guess before we get into anything, why don't you kind of just give everyone the really brief background on, I guess, like your entrepreneurial journey? Because I don't want to just talk about the project. I think there's a lot people can learn about what you've done because it's pretty incredible.
Well, thanks. I've learned a lot from you just in the last several months, I have to say, for sure. Real short, I took a traditional path right out of law school, got a job at a medium-sized law firm doing like trial practice. After a few years, it was a grind and I wasn't making the kind of money I wanted to make. Was working a lot of hours, so I thought I'd go into regular corporate business. I worked for a division of GE for a year and a half. Got really bored and wanted to get back to being a lawyer. Started in a small firm working for a couple of young guys. After 1 year, they split up, which was a little exciting when I had a mortgage to pay. And ended up starting a law firm with one of my bosses. Grew that huge in a short period of time. The recession blew us up. Got wiped out in the recession. Had to downsize, sell my house, move. It was crazy, but rebuilt my career from that. Kind of started again with a small group of clients, built a practice. And then I was working at another firm, was recruited by my present firm to work with them. I did a lot of different things and eventually settled on family law many years ago now. And it kind of took off. So that's basically the story. And then I became an owner of this law firm with my wife a couple of years ago. And we've been working on building it ever since. So that's the short story.
Yeah. And that's incredible. So what the reason I wanted you to share that is because this whole project, the $1 Million Comeback, was about going from nothing and reinventing yourself. I mean, there's a lot of people right now that are struggling, that are going through a lot of hardship and things that have been created from the pandemic. I know a lot of business owners personally, a lot of friends personally, and you went through a situation where you had to rebuild yourself. So, I mean, what was it your living proof? I mean, like this project so far, personally gone from absolutely nothing to, where I'm at now, which is like being on my feet, but you've gone from, in real life, going from, having something that was going well and then it gets wiped out from a recession and then having to rebuild yourself. So can you talk a little bit about that and what that was kind of like?
Scary as hell. Luckily, my ex-wife, who I give credit to she had a steady job as a high school teacher and administrator. And that was helpful because at least we had a baseline income to at least pay the bills. So I didn't have to go to zero like you did, but we had to sell our house. We had made one mistake, which advice I'd give to entrepreneurs is don't outspend your means and bank a lot of your money because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. My income was a rocket ride for like 5 years, made more money in my early 30s than I ever dreamed of making, bought a big car, built a house, did a lot of stuff you shouldn't do, and ended up, having a lot of debt, having to sell the house, sell some personal property. It was pretty humbling. So learned my lesson the hard way and had to reinvent myself and find out. Also had to learn how to market. Nobody teaches you in law school how to be a marketer, how to sell. They don't teach you that you need to get clients, that you need, or in this case, how to get customers. They teach you about law. So I had to educate myself very quickly after the recession because the business I was in before sort of built itself with some work that we did, but learned how to build a website, found a contractor back then to help me build one, started a blog, realized that once I got into family law, I had to become an expert. So I started writing articles, studying what other successful divorce lawyers had done to become successful and copying what they did. So I became a perpetual student of other business people, first lawyers. Then I realized there was a lot more to learn outside of the law profession with business people like you, and got into the entrepreneurial space to study what was making them successful. So that's basically the story, was adapting the things that were used in business to use in law firms. Somehow in law firms, we believe that we're immune to the normal laws applicable to business or the rules. And it's a business like any other. We're delivering a service like an agency.
Yep. That's funny because that's exactly how I look at a law firm. I look at any professional service business, whether it's a law firm, an accounting practice, a development agency, a design company, a marketing company. They're all operationally the same. You have client work, which I call the technical. So like technically, you guys are really good at divorce law. Whereas like my dad, for example, is really good at tax law and accounting. And with like what I'm personally doing for you, we can say like my technical is content. So the technical is the only thing that's different. Than the operations are mostly the same. You have account management, you have cash flow management, which we call like admin, finance, etc.
Sure.
But marketing and sales is the same. How you do that's very, very similar. Now, obviously, it depends on who you're working with. Like in your case, your client it's not necessarily B2B. It's more of a consumer, I guess, in terms of like how you market. And it's a little bit different because like with what you do, it's not like a retention business, I'd assume. Whereas like an accounting practice, it's retention. With content, it's retention and B2B. So it's a lot, different in that sense. But for the most part, again, operations are very similar. So I think it's interesting. I do want to kind of get into some of the actual project stuff, because I'm sure a lot of people kind of want to hear some of that. But before I do that, the one thing that I do want to ask for anyone that's watching that is in the process of building themselves up, building their business, reinventing themselves, what do you think was the number one most important thing for you to go from, the humbling situation that you went through to getting yourself to the situation of building a 20 plus employee law firm?
Never stop. You can't quit. I'm from a military family. My son was in the Army, my dad, uncle, grandfather. There's a saying, when you're in an ambush, so you're attacked on all sides by the enemy, you're supposed to fight through the ambush. So you go on rock and roll and you blast out of the ambush. If you stay in one place, you're going to die. So even though you're beset on all sides by COVID, back then the recession, whatever, you have to shift into drive and you can't stop. And the one thing what I love about watching MDC, your show and the project, is you're demonstrating that writ large, like every week. It's like Facebook ads denied. Okay, we're going to work around that. We're not going to quit. Okay, we're going to try this one. You tried an original e-commerce idea, was a different one. That's not going to work. We're going to go to this coffee around, dog lovers. You never quit, and you can't quit. So I was a personal injury lawyer. I was never a divorce lawyer. I had to reinvent myself. I've changed my areas of practice 3 or 4 times. I had to, learn from scratch. It's doable. You just have to get out there and put in the work. There is no substitute for putting in the work. So I'm doing a video somewhere on one of my TikToks. I'm going to do a video talking about how people like to say it's luck. You're lucky. So I've been blessed with good family and friends and my wife and everything. And So you're on vacation or you're somewhere nice, and maybe people are at your vacation house, which is true for us. And they say, "You're so lucky to have this. You're so lucky that you have this." I said,
How
"Lucky."
mad does that make you?
It's understandable.
Yeah,
People,
yeah.
but luck has very little to do with it. Nobody was there when I was working late at night studying this stuff. Nobody was there on Saturday when I was working on the website. Or this past weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I'm working on a book I'm going to publish in the summer. I'm writing that every morning.
Yep.
Well, that's not super fun, but that the book's isn't going to magically appear. Somebody has to write it. So
doing boring shit consistently, persistently for years is not luck. Now, the way I look at luck is it's probably pretty similar to you. Is like you create your own luck. Like when you work really freaking hard, sometimes things work out, and then when you identify those things that work out, you quadruple on them and just really focus heavily on them.
Putting yourself in a position to take advantage of the random things that happen. So the lucky things that do happen, like me meeting you, well, we both put ourselves in a position to meet. And then we had the wherewithal to think, we should talk about, like, let's go to the next level. So you leverage your skill set. But when you run into the random opportunities, then you can take advantage of them. Otherwise, if you're not prepared, if you're not in that position, then those things happen and you have no ability to capitalize on those things. First of all, I would say every door that opens, walk through it. That's a piece of advice I give my kids. If somebody says, will you speak at this thing? Your answer should be yes. Well, if it's a new opportunity, will you do X? Will you live stream with me? Yes, I will. But because if you say no, the doors just start closing and you don't capitalize on those opportunities. So
yeah, I agree. I agree a lot with that. More so in the sense of like putting yourself out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
In certain scenarios, it also makes a lot of sense to say no.
Well, that's true.
Once things are working in a certain way, that then you have to start. You kind of have to readjust and be like, okay, what do I need to say no to? But more so, what you're saying is put yourself out of your comfort zone. Like do things that are going to be totally uncomfortable for you, but say yes and get that experience. Like, oh man, I can't say enough how many times this a big part of why I started this project outside of actually trying to help people was like I felt too comfortable. I was like, I'm not putting myself out of my comfort zone enough. And then when I thought of doing this project, part of what excited me again, out like the selfish part of the project was like, this was going to like really throw me outside my comfort zone, which excited me. Cause I was like, I'm going to just have to do all these things I've never done before. It's going to be incredibly awesome. It's going to be really uncomfortable. And then those things just, I forget the term, but it's like, if you keep doing the same shit and you're not seeing results, but you keep doing it, that's like the definition of crazy or whatever. So like you have to test things that you've never done before. So, I was part of the selfishness in this and yeah, I think that's kind of relatable, but
I've never written a book before. I've never been on TikTok before. I don't know about this stuff, but you find people that know better than you, like, about TikTok and you motivated me. I'd read a little bit about getting on there and I'm on there now. But in the beginning, it was very weird. And, it takes time to build that up, but you got to make the effort and take the chance to begin with.
100%. And now that we're kind of talking about that, we'll talk a little bit about the project, because I don't even know. I guess if you've been following the vlog, you do know that I've been helping Raif with TikTok specifically. But I remember when I first started working with you, originally I started as a virtual assistant, and then we kind of got moved into doing like the content stuff. So I guess first off, anyone that's watching, I don't know if you can see any of the comments on your end, but I'll address just some people are just saying hey and stuff. If you guys do have questions for Raif, either about the project or about law in general or about building business, because he has a lot of experience doing it, feel free to pop it in the comments. I do see one question we'll get to, and then we'll go into like the actual maybe project stuff. So,
I got him now. I can see him.
So we have one here. Someone asked, throughout the episodes, I've seen nothing about paying taxes. As a young hustler, I'm curious, until what point does it really matter legal wise? So taxes. Okay, I'm a super nerd when it comes to taxes, like super nerd. My dad's an accountant. I love tax law. It's super weird, but like I love it. And I would say like don't worry about taxes until you're starting to actually make money. Then it becomes important. Focus on building your business first. But once you actually do have revenue coming in, then you really want to be paying attention to this. And Raif probably knows better than I do, but there's a certain point when you do want to actually go, and if you're like self-employed, you want to make the step of going LLC, file an S election, so you save a lot of money in self-employment tax. Like it's a lot. And my dad always tells me his advice is like once you're making like 50,000 plus is when you want to start starting to pay attention. Like, okay, incorporate S election. Now, if you don't do an S election, you are going to be subject to self-employment taxes, which is very high. I think it's like 15.3%. So get ready to write Uncle Sam a nice check until you can afford until you can afford to incorporate and do all that stuff. So Raif can probably talk more about the legalities of incorporating, but in terms of the reason I haven't talked about taxes, guys, is like I don't have to worry about taxes right now. I'm not generating enough revenue just yet where that becomes really important. But once you are, if it's just you or you and a partner, S election is going to be really important for the self-employment side.
So I would say, in a quick answer to that, it's cheap to talk to a CPA and get advice from an accountant. I'm not an accountant. I'm a lawyer in Illinois. So this is no substitute for accounting advice. I have to say that disclaimer. But it's cheap to talk to a CPA and get some advice. So by all means, you probably know one, somebody in your family or whatever, a friend, get a referral, go talk to somebody for an hour. It's cheap and gives you a lot of peace of mind about where you are with your taxes. I can say in the grand scheme of things, don't mess with the IRS. They have ways of coming after you. And they can intercept refunds. There's all kinds of things the IRS can do to make you miserable. So do it. The best thing to do is do it, but you're getting substantial time. Oh, I'm back.
Yeah, Raif, I think we lost you a little bit for a sec. I did hear a little bit. What he was saying was pretty much don't screw with the IRS. Just like play by the rules. But here's the important thing is know the rules. So if you do talk to a CPA and you learn the rules, you can do a lot of things legally, not illegal, legally, that can save you a lot of money in taxes. I think you're back now, Raif. No, it's a little scratchy still. So while Raif's internet's kind of coming back and stuff, again, if you guys do have questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. John says, hi, what's up? Let's see here. Now, if you are listening on Instagram, join us on YouTube if you want to ask Raif a question because he cannot see you. John says you're fully dressed tonight. I don't know if you're talking about me. I don't know if you're talking about Raif. But Raif is definitely looking much better than I am right now. Yeah, you can keep asking questions. Again, guys, just drop them in the comments. You're more than welcome to. Raif, it looks like you're back now.
Yeah, please.
It's still a little scratchy with the internet. I think we might have lost you again. But yeah, guys, again, keep asking questions. While Raif's internet's still coming back here, I'll give you guys some updates on the last week because the last week has been, I guess a lot's happened. I don't know if it was the last live stream or this live stream, but we did get our Facebook ads account back. And we've been running Facebook ads very unprofitably. So we're still figuring all that stuff out. And we're getting up and running with content. So I'll definitely touch on that. Raif, it looks like you're back.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good now. All right. So Raif, in terms of the project, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that might want to know about like our relationship during the project and stuff. So I guess, and this will be interesting because I never really asked, like when I first started working with you, what was kind of like your impression? What was the reason that you had hired me originally as a virtual assistant?
So we've been really moving into working with contractors on Upwork and other places. And we've been looking for help with our email. So one of our issues is, like everybody else, we get buried with emails every day. And we were thinking about maybe we can get a VA to check our emails for us like 5 times a day because we get emergency things dropped in our email, new clients, things like that, who sneak around our normal intake channels. So we have a couple of normal channels where court stuff comes in and new client requests come in, but then people will direct message you or send you an email straight up or go on the website and pick a lawyer directly. And checking your email 5 times a day is a big. Okay. Am I back?
Yeah. You're back.
All right. Geez, I got to check our internet connection. So
it's all good.
We were looking for VAs to process emails. So we went on Upwork, looked for some candidates. You looked really interesting, but it was like, let's try this. And you got in my email, helped me organize it. And if you ever read the book, Who, Not How. So it's a great book about not learning how to do it yourself, but find people to help you do it. Basically, that's what I was trying to do. Rather than me spending hours figuring out how to sort out my email, you already be able to do it at a $25 an hour. We're billing clients out at $4.20 or whatever an hour. So, my time's really valuable doing other stuff. So subbing that out, like stuff straight out of the 4-hour work week, makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, but by the way, Who, Not How, is that by Dan Sullivan?
I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Okay, cool. So anyone that's interested, Who, Not Now by Dan Sullivan is what Raif is referring to.
Great book. And the gist is find people to help you, not which Mike is doing too. He finds a fulfillment person who's great at fulfillment rather than trying to reinvent the wheel and setting up your own warehouse. And there are people that are willing to, the rental economy in terms of people and equipment has dramatically changed with the advent of tech or with the help of tech. So if you can rent a supercar, you can rent a warehouse or part of a warehouse, just like you can rent a beautiful house. So that's dramatically changed the way you can business and made it a lot less expensive. It's not nearly as capital intensive to run a law firm or a coffee business as it once was. You don't need to set up Hill Brothers. You're able to just start this little brand because there are all these companies willing to sell a slice of their expertise to you for a fraction of their cost.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And again, like it's so important with Raif's talking about is to start delegating as quickly as you can. I talk about it a lot. I'm curious, like from the beginning of the relationship, I don't fully remember your post. I just remember you're looking for a virtual assistant. Do you remember at all why you decided to interview me versus other candidates, which I don't know if you ended up interviewing other candidates or not, but what was the reason that you decided to interview me versus other people that had applied to that role?
Your application was really just no nonsense and detailed enough. And I just thought it was well written, and it sounded like I was getting somebody with some experience, and I needed somebody that was going to be able to hit the ground running. So you were that, and then way more, obviously. And I remember you called me after, I don't know, it was a week or whatever, we talked, and you said, look, I kind of have your email up and running. Is there anything else you want me to do? And you said you could probably get somebody cheaper just to check your email, which I thought the same thing. So I don't know even don't remember how we got discussing social media, but I knew that was a weak spot for us.
Mm-hmm. Well,
we wanted to grow.
What I remember, and by the way, for everyone watching, like Raif didn't know about the project. He didn't know. The only thing that was really weird, which I think we mentioned made it into the vlog, was when I originally talked to you, I was talking as Mike Scott, but then you asked for my ID to start working together, and I gave you my ID, which said Mike Black, but my middle name's Scott. So I was like, okay, hopefully this like kind of makes sense. And
I thought it was like maybe it's a business name. And the story you told me was I had this. You said something like I had a social media agency, a small one in Austin, and the pandemic wiped me out. Nobody's going to bars, nobody's going to live events. So I've got no clients. And that rang true to me because I have friends who do web marketing, and they said everybody's pulling back their ad budgets for Facebook, Google, all that stuff. And I decided to throttle up my budget because I'm like, I've got some cash. I'm going to take advantage of this if I can to try to get whatever clients there are, because I don't know if we're going to go off a cliff or not. So I thought, this is again, same philosophy. When you're ambushed, fight through the ambush. I was like, I'm not going to pull back ad spending now. I'm going to crank it up because I'm going to.
By the way, companies that win are the companies that do that. You just have to have the cash on hand when the bad times come, and then the upside is so huge if you can capitalize it because the cost for ads just go down significantly, and the cost for marketing goes down. Any types of paid media goes down significantly when everyone pulls their budgets.
Right. So we were in a position to do that. But the thing you said in a previous video about cranking out content, we also did that. So we started doing a lot more stuff, and I started reaching out to people, just literally phone calls and video conferences when nobody else was doing that. Everybody was hunkering down and just kind of bummed out. I was doing virtual coffees with people and calling people to check in and see how you're doing.
By the way, I don't know if I've told you about this. I'm sure I probably mentioned it, but Lunch Club, for anyone that's watching, and I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but Lunch Club is amazing. Lunchclub.ai. If you want to virtually network with people, what they do is you build a profile, and then you tell them what types of people you want to meet. It's totally free. They're backed by Andreessen Horowitz. They've raised a bit of money, and they'll match you with really cool people. I've met some incredible people. They specifically, a lot of people they match me with are other agency owners, just because I'm an agency owner. So I've probably been matched with like 10 different agency owners that I've gotten to network with, but I've said that I wanted to meet people like that. So if you are, Raif, trying to meet more people, or anyone watching, lunchclub.ai is incredible.
Cool. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, they do like a virtual meeting. So you just jump in a Google Meet, you just talk for 45 minutes. And, sometimes you get some weirdos. Sometimes you get some people that are really interesting. Sometimes you get people that are in the same industry. It really depends on how you kind of optimize your profile. But I think the way they're going to monetize that, because it's free, is like if you do want to pay to meet someone specific, like if you're looking for a co-founder, or you're looking for like a developer or something very specific, then you have to pay to say, I want this meeting to be with this type of person. And it's like a whole credit system. It's pretty cool.
So when you were talking about the beginning of the pandemic, when the lockdown started, a lot of my competition was like, well, there's less work to do, so I guess I'm going to watch a lot of Netflix. Well, hell no, that's not what you do. That's the worst thing you can do.
The last thing you should do.
So I said to my wife, Julie, who's my partner, I said, this is going to be the hardest 6 months of my life, or whatever it's going to be. I'm going to work my ass off until we get out of the other side of this thing, and then I'm going to take like a month off.
Yeah, I love it. By the way, everyone, I am so anti-Netflix. I've always been so anti-Netflix, to the point where I remember I was running a business called Parking Bee. We were, and then Mapify. We were a SaaS company, and my co-founder, just all he fucking did in his free time was watch Netflix. And I remember I got so infuriated with him, because when we were grinding out of a basement. Like when you're grinding out of a basement, it was a lot of fun, by the way. Like me and my co-founders, we were building this software for government. It was so much fun. We were having a blast, but like, you got to be putting in the 80, 100-hour weeks. You don't have time to watch stupid shit like Netflix. So it got to the point where I was like, I took the TV out of his room, and then months after, he was gone.
Motivated or you're not.
Super anti-Netflix for anyone that's trying to build a business. I mean, you got to put the hours in, and if you're not putting the hours in, you're spending time. And I'm not gonna, everyone has their own. What I will say, and where I think I've matured a bit, is I've always been so like right side on this, where it's like 100-hour weeks, but that's what works. That like I can do that. There's other people that like either burn out, or they need that like mental break, which is totally fine. So in those cases, if that's how you get your mental break, Netflix is great, but like don't spend your whole weekend watching Netflix,
right,
and then complain about whatever your situation is, or how you're not hitting your goals. Right. You got to put the work in.
It's a balance like anything. And I'm not, I'm probably working 8 hours a day, maybe 9 hours a day. I'm not killing myself, but I'm 51 years old. So at some point you have to find a way to go the distance too. So you have to stay healthy, and you have 100%. To go the distance as well. So there's a balance in all things, but don't complain about not getting the thing you want. If you're not willing to put in the effort, the book isn't going to write itself.
100%.
I was one of our colleagues wrote a book, and I was jealous about that for a couple of years. Like, well, stop being jealous and write your own damn book.
Yeah. Well, here's all I'll say before we move on is like, if you're running another company that's competing with, let's just say I was like fully focused on content, and you're watching Netflix on the weekend, and the weekend I'm building my business, and then you're competing with me, like, it's gonna be hard to be able to win unless you're doing other things just so much better and managing your time so much better. But don't watch Netflix and then call Raif lucky.
That's fun one.
But yeah, back to the one thing I remember when we first started working together was I don't know if you remember this or not, Raif. When I applied, I made a Loom video, and I remember that when I went, that you were.
That was that? Actually, that was huge. So we had that's a great, I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot about that. So the difference between you and everybody else was you did a Loom video and you talked about a little bit about who you were and stuff like that. And we just started using Loom maybe 6 months ago or before that happened. And I thought, wow, this guy is savvy. He gets tech. He understands software. And if, you sort of demonstrated your skills right in the application, which was amazing. So I'm watching your Loom video. I'm like, this guy's totally on the ball, and it costs nothing to get Loom. So
zero.
It's like using those tools. It demonstrates to the potential employer you have competency, and it's like I think a guy who knows this is sophisticated enough to grasp other things. So that was huge. Actually, I forgot all about that. There's a question actually about, did my opinion change about you after I found out about the project?
Let me pull that up. Before I pull that up, I do want to just say one more time, because I put it in previous videos. A lot of people are like, I need to make money to start my business. I want to start freelancing. I want to build an agency. Guys, I cannot say enough. Loom, like, you got to do things like, from someone that hires a lot of people and goes through so many applicants. If the hiring is so tough, getting good talent is so tough. If you can get on just a quick Loom and just say what you do, who you do it for, why they should go with you, you're going to significantly increase the amount of actual interviews you get. And if you're good at what you do, then you're going to be able to close deals. So now you get to see the other side of someone that actually got the Loom video. Now, I get a lot of those. Not a lot of people. There have been a few people I've seen that have applied to jobs I posted that use Loom, and they're the ones that get the interviews. They're a step above everyone else. They're putting that extra effort in. I get to hear them. Like,
right.
If like, it's so much different just seeing someone's application than actually seeing them on video talking about whatever it is they do. Because how do they think? How do they kind of problem solve a little bit? How do they present themselves? You can get an idea if they really know what they're talking about or not. If you just hear someone talk for literally a minute, that's it. If I hear someone talk for a minute, I can get just more data. I have more data on if I like the person or not. And if they're willing to do that, they probably are willing to do it because they're confident in their abilities in some way, shape, or form.
So I want to just jump on one thing you said about growing and starting out. For those of you who are starting out new, it's a lot easier to start out in a business if you have something as a baseline. So if you're working, like, a side gig is valuable, right? So if you can get health insurance and work for somebody else, there's no reason why at night you can't build your business. So that's a nice way to do it, because you already have an engine running your airplane and you're adding a second engine. That's beautiful. Then you don't have to start from zero like Mike is. You can start from one. You're already working somewhere. And at night on the weekends, instead of watching Netflix, you're building the new thing. That's a sweet spot to be in, because you're not worried about dying. It doesn't work, so what? You're still got your job.
Such a good spot. And there's so many people that are working their full-time jobs I literally during this project, I've met like 3 or 4 people that they're spending their weekends, they're spending their nights working on building their business, and eventually their goal is to quit their job. One of them's about to in about a month that I've been talking to. And I'm so pumped for that person. I'm so excited. And that person deserves whatever's going to come for him because he's put in the work.
Right.
So we'll get to this question here. So someone asks, Raif, did your opinion change on your VA Mike after you found out about this? And did it affect your relationship with Mike? Now, one thing I'll say before you answer, just so everyone knows, Raif just found out about the project maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Something like that. Now, if you watch the MDC vlog, again, we're always behind like a week, so we can actually edit the videos and stuff. So Raif just recently found out about this. So just some context for anyone that's unfamiliar.
Thanks for the question. So did my opinion change? Actually, I just thought he was that much cooler.
I don't know how many people think I'm cool, but
I do. So, but I just thought it was so, the project's so fascinating, it's so interesting. And that you were giving, and I said this, it's on that video that came out a couple days ago on Friday, I guess, but I genuinely was delighted to work. I mean, I was so happy with Mike's work on my social media anyway. I mean, it just working with a dynamic, interesting person is rewarding in and of itself. And Mike clearly was that kind of person anyway. And I thought, wow, he's really helped my business for $2,000 a month. It's well worth it. And and so when I learned about the project, I thought it's like a play within a play, like in Shakespeare, you know. So we've got this world of this social media business he's running, and I find out it's actually part of this. It's like we're in the Matrix. We're in the simulation. So it's really cool. To me, he's doing a great service to entrepreneurs and business people and just people who are on their backs, who got knocked down with this, to show that it can be done. You can go back to zero and you can get back up again. It's easier than ever, thanks to tech, to get on your feet. There's no excuse not to work for somebody somehow. Upwork, Fiverr, they've changed the world forever. And again, if you can rent a luxury condo for a weekend that you would have never met that person, you would have never been able to go to that place. You can also give away your time at X dollars an hour to somebody across the world. You couldn't do that 10 years ago. If you couldn't find work in your town, you were screwed. I mean, that's the thing. There's no excuse not to find a way to make a buck these days, whether you're flipping couches on eBay or you're doing, I mean, there's too many opportunities now to say that nothing's going on, or that to say there's no chances out there is an outright lie.
It's total bullshit. It's total victim mentality. And what I'll say, I don't know if any of this ever made it into the vlog, but I was able to get a job on day 2 of the project. Day 2 of the project, I had a job lined up. The reason I didn't take the job, though, was there was really 2 things. One, I didn't realize yet that I could get there with a bus, because for anyone that doesn't know, the public transportation in Austin, Texas is horrible. And I was living like all the way on the east side, and it was all the way on the west side. So like taking public transportation was like actually really challenging. But the second reason, the main reason that I personally didn't do it, was because I was making a lot of money flipping couches with just my cell phone. So, I mean, I think it was like $300 in profit, not revenue, profit in the first 3 days of the project. And I did not foresee that I was going to get shadow banned on Facebook. So I just was like, I'm just going to keep flipping couches, and I ended up getting shadow banned. But it was literally it's Mike Scott, no background, nothing, literally nothing. I had I had one pair of clothes. I smelled like total shit. Like, I didn't shower for the first however long, and I was showering and putting my clothes back on, and I was able to get a job paid like $9 an hour, on day 2 with no background, no resume, none of that stuff. So you could, find a job to pay the bills. You can flip couches. You can flip stuff on Facebook. You can go on Upwork. Like, you do a lot of these things. So I think you kind of nailed it on the.
It's also one more thing is this is a new world where you don't need a college degree. You need to just show people you can work. So proof is literally in the pudding now more than ever. You get a couple 5-star reviews on Upwork. And now you're doing work for the next person, more reviews, increase your hourly rate. I didn't research his CV. I didn't check to see if he had a college degree.
By the way, which I'm super surprised that this whole project, all the people I've come across, the majority of people just have not looked into my background very much. And I did a good job of trying to hide it. I just recently, the last month or so, actually turned my LinkedIn back on. I changed my name on my LinkedIn because I didn't want people to find me and then see the project and stuff, and then see my actual background. But I've been really surprised. I mean, did you try to look up my background at all, or LinkedIn?
I think I had my operations director do a little bit of looking, but honestly, I wasn't real concerned. At $25 an hour, it's like either this guy's going to deliver or he isn't. And if he doesn't, I just go click and we're done. So You're not in my business. I'm not giving you access to the cash register or anything. So that's what's interesting is with these remote jobs. employers are just not as concerned about some of that stuff. Like, is he a good fit? I mean, no, does he get the work done? And that's been kind of a revelation for us thinking about our lawyers too, is it's not so much about like, are we pals with them? It's more like, or can we be friends with them? It's, do they get the job done well? And I was thinking, well, we'll see. And in 2 days, I would know if you were going to be good with the email or not. And it was great. And then I thought, okay, well then I don't know how we got into the social media conversation, but then I thought, well, this guy knows this stuff. Let's try it. I can't lose to try this other thing. I thought the same thing. If social media bombs out, if this guy Mike can't deliver, I say click and we're done. And I don't have to, there's no, and you don't have to be in agony about it. It's simple. So that's a two-way street. It makes it much easier for employers to want to give you a shot.
Yeah. And let me just reiterate, Raif runs a 20 plus person law firm. So like, this is coming from someone that runs a 20 plus employee law firm. And it's the same with any of the businesses that I run. When I could care less if you have I don't ask people if they have a college degree. I actually don't even really look at resumes. I just like, I do look at LinkedIn's. So I will look at someone's LinkedIn depending on the role, but depending on the role, I really just care about the portfolio and then cultural fit. And I think it's super, 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 super interesting. Like, again, I don't know if you saw the beginning of the like very start of the project in the videos, but like, I by no means was any form of a social media marketing expert at all. Now, with that being said, I understand marketing, like the high level of it pretty well. And at this point now, I would say I'm definitely have a very high level expertise in doing it. But like when I started, it was just like virtual assistant. Okay, anyone can be a virtual assistant, and if as long as you can problem solve.
Right.
And then what I say the same thing, which is funny, is like I need 2 days with someone. If I can work with someone for 2 days, about a week, I can really tell if I like the person very quickly or not, if they're going to do a good job. You can just tell. You can tell. I mean, we did that with the people that we got better at hiring for the MDC project specifically. I don't know if you've ever run this model yourself, but I had to run this for MDC, and it was very, I actually really don't like it that much, but it was like a very crazy hire fast, fire fast model, because the day that I came up with the project, literally a day later, I committed to it, and then I had to start hiring for it. And I had no idea, never run a production company, never run a production team, never hired video editors. So I had to figure all this stuff out, and it was just like, go. So hired a bunch of people, fired a couple people, hired more people. And then eventually it got to the point where like we did have some decent systems in place, but it was all like, okay, let's hire someone and see how they do for 2 days. And some of those people would end up getting fired. Some of them would end up staying. So like a couple people, it was even like half a day. I worked with someone. I was like Logan, for example. He's our videographer, which now he doesn't shoot video for us, obviously, because I moved to the Philly area. But when we interviewed, my conversation was like, hey, you're going to work with us for a week. If we like you, then we're going to give you a full-time offer. And I think we gave him a full-time offer after like a day or two.
Sure.
Because once they start working, so so point is, again, like anyone that's watching, just put yourself out there, figure out what it is that you want to be doing. And then if you can put yourself in a position to actually prove that you can do what you're trying to do, then great. If you can't do what you're trying to do, then either lower your rates, work for free, learn how to do it. Now, something that you didn't really, I don't think, experience with me personally, because there was a couple other people I think I worked with before you. Like they asked me, can you do email marketing with MailChimp? I had no idea. I've never used MailChimp. We actually use it on MDC though, but the MDC team does that. And I was like, yeah, I can figure out MailChimp. But I let her know, like, I'm not an expert at MailChimp.
Right.
But what I'll do is like, I won't bill you while I learn how to use it, because the whole role of a VA is to save the business owner time.
Yeah.
So I just didn't bill when I learned MailChimp. And then I billed actually like not very much when I was implementing it, because I felt like I wasn't like fast enough yet. But now I know how to use MailChimp. So like if the next person wants me to set up MailChimp, I know how to do it, so I can increase my rates for it.
Yeah, and
that's how it works.
You only have to be, that whole analogy about you don't have to be faster than a bear. You just have to be faster than the people that are running with you.
Yeah.
Away from the bear.
So
you don't have to be the fastest person, just faster than the last person. If you have a skill that's just a little better than the guy trying to hire you, That's all it takes for somebody to hire you. I mean, I could have spent a few hours to figure out email, but Mike was willing to do it. I didn't know he was an email. It was a program called Front that we use for our email.
Yes.
And it's a good app if you have a team, by the way, but it's Front app.
Yeah, which is really cool. I that was the first time I've worked with any type of software like that to manage email. What I'll say, looking at looking at a law firm with 20 plus employees, I was pretty impressed with where you guys are at technology wise. A lot of companies are just so behind when it comes to that stuff, but you guys are pretty on top of it.
We that's kind of one of our priorities, is to be tech forward, and I try to stay in touch with blogs and stuff talking about tech and on Twitter. So, because those things are competitive advantages that a lot of my competitors don't pay attention to. Lawyers are very conservative. They tend to be pretty hidebound. They don't like change. I mean, nobody likes change, or very few people do. Lawyers especially tend to be conservative, especially with tech. So I found it to be a huge competitive advantage to have those things. So when the pandemic hit, I had already had a remote. We'd already had the software in place to be able to work remotely. All we had to do was buy a few notebooks and have them configured for our staff, because they had desktops. We had all 20 people in one office location. 2 weeks before the lockdown in Illinois, I talked to my wife and said, we probably need to buy some laptops. I think they're going to shut us down. And we did it. And literally we got them configured and sent people home. The Friday, a week before the lockdown, we sent people home to test them. Everything, we stayed home that week testing. We got the lockdown order that on Thursday for the very next week.
Great call.
And we just kept on trucking, and there was no disruption. And lots of our competition were hugely, massively disrupted for weeks and weeks because of it. So luckily, well, not just luck, but I'd been pushing for remote access for the lawyers to take care of their kids at home. You have a sick child, or you have to be somewhere else. At least you can keep working. So
I'm curious. I know a lot of business owners that that have gone remote, and now they didn't think they could be remote, and then they were forced to, and then they're like, wow, this actually works. How's that worked with your law firm? Have you guys been like, wow, we actually love this? Or has it been like, man, we can't wait to get back in the office?
So it's a mixed bag. So some of the lawyers, they like to be in the office, and we still have a physical space because it needs to be quiet. Maybe they've got young kids at home and they need a place to go just to think. So we have office space available, but the staff literally told us we never want to come back. So our paralegals and our operations team said, we don't want to come back. We love this. And so we promised everybody there will be no coming back. You can come back and you can use space.
I wouldn't want to be in commercial real estate. That's all I'll say.
I'm actually in talks with our landlord to shrink our, we have a very expensive lease in a very fancy space, and there's no need for it. We need less than half of it. I'm negotiating to go to about a third of our space and cut our rent drastically, which was kind of somewhere we wanted to go over the next several years. But the pandemic accelerated what I thought was going to take 5 years into 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And we never could have convinced our internal team to make this move this quickly, to abandon paper files, which lawyers love, by the way. They got rid of them. Work remotely only, video meetings, all that stuff. Clients on video and phone only, and electronic files only. We couldn't have done that inside 8 weeks, a month. But it was, everybody realized with the pandemic, I don't want to go in the office and go try to get a paper file. I don't want to run into other people. I might get sick. So other firms had, and companies, not just law firms, they had somebody get sick. They had to shut down the place for a week or 2 weeks, clean everything up, totally disrupt operations. And when you stay remote, you avoid so much of that trouble. Now you have to keep your team together, though, by having frequent meetings and get-togethers.
Well, what I'll say is that when I started Toll Media, from the pretty much the day one, almost day one, we were a remote company, and it was like cool to be a remote company back then. Now it's like you like almost have to be. But what I thought was interesting is like how hard people like made remote. They made it like it was like this crazy thing. Now, what I will say is personally, like I run my own business, have always been remote. I love being in an office. So like for me, I've always had space at WeWork. I cannot say enough good things about WeWork. And specifically WeWork, by the way, if you're a professional service business, like if you're a professional service business, I would never get office space anywhere at any other co-working space other than WeWork because of their online platform to get new business. The reason I love WeWork so much, though, is personally, I actually like I have this whole setup here. Pretty much Deirdre set up all this, so it probably wouldn't be nearly as nice if it wasn't for Deirdre. But this is good. But I go freaking insane personally if I don't have human interaction. So I loved having my own space at WeWork that I can just get there in like 5 minutes. And the best perk by far is just like, one, the human interaction, but two, you get to build your network. Like some of my best friends I met at WeWork, and they're all business owners. They're entrepreneurial minded. So for those of you that are watching, because I know there's a lot of people that are going nuts right now with the pandemic, depending on where you live, like get space at WeWork. I bet you it's discounted right now. You get to meet all these cool people. You get to be around the types of people you want to be around. And most importantly, if you're a professional service business, I don't know if it's most importantly, but we've done probably $1 million in revenue over since the inception of Told Me just through WeWork, through clients we got at WeWork. So if you are a professional service business, their online platform is incredible. It's like our secret weapon in terms of like client acquisition. It's just been amazing. Because like if you think about it, if you go to a WeWork, there's a bunch of businesses, right? That means they need business services, marketing, business law. I know that you guys don't do business law, but business law, accounting, software development. Sure. Check it out, guys. I cannot say how it was probably the best decision I ever made was getting space at WeWork. But again, remote company, I still like going to the office personally.
Yep.
I don't know how you feel. Do you like working at home?
Yeah, to avoid the commute, basically. It's like half an hour each way, but I miss the people. I mean, we used to have all office lunches for birthdays, and you miss that stuff. So I'm a person that likes to hang out and check in, see how people are doing and talk for a few minutes to people. And I like wandering the office to see what's going on. So that's been a little challenging, but I see all the upsides far outweigh the fact that I like to bullshit with people.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. That's the worst part about running a remote company is every time we do our team retreat, I hang out with everyone. I'm like, shit, I really wish everyone wasn't remote because it's so you don't get to go to the bar and grab a beer. You don't get to, hang out and get his personal appeal. Now, what I will say, guys, this is a pro tip. We did this with our team. Oculus Quest. Freaking incredible. If you guys haven't heard of the Oculus Quest, they revolutionized VR by making a headset that is one, affordable, and two, doesn't have a wire. So you just put it on your head. And we got VR headsets for our team. So everyone on our team has these VR headsets, and it's the coolest team building activities where you can get on and either play games, or they even are starting to like come up with actually like co-working type apps where you can be in the same room and work with other people. They're really far, like it's not far ahead. So it's not where it will be in terms of like it actually being effective, but it's getting there. But that's one thing that we've been testing is just like having like a set date to like all jump on a VR headset and play together. And it feels like you're in the same room. It's really cool.
That I just got one at Christmas, and that's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. That's a cool idea. It's
now you have to like have someone set it up and manage it though, because everyone's not going to know how to use the headset. And I have people on the team that are tech, and they have issues. So like there's a little bit of a learning curve. Just like learning how to use it. But once you do, if you can find a game that everyone can play or something where everyone can play, it's just a really fun way to still get some form of interaction, even though you might be in totally different states or, in your case, you guys are probably all in Illinois, but cool. So went on a little tangent down there, I guess, in terms of other questions. Again, if you guys do have questions for Raif, feel free to put them in the comment section. I think we did have a couple come in on Instagram, so I'll put up one of them. One of them asks, how would you approach selling B2B to huge clients as a totally new agency, assuming your service is not relevant for a small business? So if you're selling specifically to big business, which by the way, I'm a big fan of. A lot of people, when they start, they're like, let me just go after small businesses. If you can go after big businesses as quickly as possible, there's a lot of benefits like bigger contracts, but there's also more headaches and more I guess just like responsibility in terms of like these operational things that you might need in place when you're working with bigger businesses. So, Raif, I'll let you take this one. I don't know how many big businesses you may have worked with in your career in different sector, the different law stuff that you've done, but what would you say if you were going to go new agency selling B2B? What would you do?
So I actually have a little bit of relevant experience. So I was in my smaller firm I had several years ago before the recession. I was doing business law, transactional work, so buying and selling businesses, formation of businesses, and business litigation. A large telecom client approached me. Again, I'm not going to name them. And I was shocked, but they'd found my website. And they said, we want somebody who's not one of the big firms in the city or national firms because they're charging us ridiculous money to represent us. And we don't, these problems that need to be solved are substantial, but they're doable by probably a larger set of lawyers than are in these giant firms. And they were being charged an arm and a leg. And so I ended up going to lunch with their rep and ended up getting a major telecom company as a client in our, at the time, small law firm. We had like 4 lawyers working with 2 of us. So, and I kept that client for many years, and it transitioned to the law firm, brought them with me, and they grew and actually expanded that business. And so part of it is putting yourself out there so that folks know that you do that stuff, and don't undersell yourself. So on the website, I didn't say, well, we only do small business work. I said, here's my skill set and handle this type of case and can do it efficiently. Never say cheap, like efficient. Like cheap means you're not worth their time.
Yeah.
Don't undersell yourself.
I agree a lot. I actually have a lot on this topic because there's actually like a couple ways that you could do this very, very quickly. And I'm a big fan of doing this, by the way. So there's a couple things. And this comes from a lot of experience, having a lot of friends that run decent sized agencies. So the number one trick, in my opinion, if you want to go from day one working with the biggest businesses, is to partner with other agencies.
Yeah, right.
For example, I have a friend, he runs a 70-person product agency. They don't call themselves that anymore, though, because they've kind of grown past that. They're more strategy and product now, but he runs a product agency out in the Philly area. And when I was talking to him, it's super interesting. Like a lot of companies he partners with are small agencies that specialize. So like, for example, let's say that I run a big product development agency and we develop apps. Let's just say that's what we do. Well, if you specialize, so that's the answer to this, specialize, and you just do AI and you're really freaking good at AI, well, guess what? There's a lot of development agencies that don't do AI. So you approach them, you're a small little agency, but you guys are really freaking good at AI. Number one, you can still charge the high rates. And number two, you can get those big deals. Second thing I'll say to kind of like dig deeper into that is Told Media, my development agency, we've worked with some really big clients like Jägermeister, Foursquare. Before the pandemic, we almost worked with Delta Airlines. There's a lot of big companies that we've worked with through partnerships with other agencies, and quite frankly, I don't like working with those companies. I did not. Some of the projects were fun. I'll say that they were fun. They were not the types of stuff I enjoy doing. So it's also important to like figure out who do you enjoy working with, what types of projects do you like, because not always is the big companies the ones you're going to work with. Like if Google approached us and asked us to develop software, I'd probably like figure out how to hire the right people to do that type of work. But I don't think I'd be like super pumped about it because that's just not what I enjoy. I enjoy working with startups and like actually help them figure out how to develop product the right way. But again, it's the answer to the question: specialize, target other agencies, work through those other agencies. That's the quickest way to do that from day one. The second way, from day one, I think portfolio is important. So I would partner with people that can provide that portfolio. So for example, let's just say tomorrow, let's say me and Raif was like, fuck law, I'm done. I'm throwing this project aside and we're going to start a design agency. Yeah. So me and Raif, I'm going to assume you're just as bad as I am at design. We're both going to start designing stuff. The first thing that I would do is I'd go find someone that has an incredibly good design portfolio, and we'd hire that person and leverage their portfolio to close deals. Because we can go to clients and be like, hey, this person's going to be on your project has worked with this company, this company, this company. Here's their work.
That's the who, not how piece.
Exactly. That's the who, not how.
Don't reinvent the wheel. Find the person that already invented the wheel and hire that guy.
Exactly. And this is what I talk about in the Open Agency Accelerator, which if you're watching, by the way, it's totally free. No upsells. I'm not trying to sell anything, just trying to help. But I show you guys how to go and do that exact thing I'm explaining. But that's what I would do on day one. Is there anything else you would do day one if you're trying to get bigger clients?
Yeah, two things. Meet people who service the big clients, CPAs, lawyers. And for me, so I was trying to build a B2B business 20 years ago. And I was like, okay, who knows these clients? Accountants, other lawyers, people that serve those industries. So I was in a campaign to meet as many of those people as I could. Commercial real estate people, but really accountants were great, and business advisors. So anybody who was doing like coaching, business counseling, consulting, those kind of people at bigger companies. Those guys were good to meet for lunch. And you find out back then everybody met for lunch. Maybe that's out of fashion now, but it's leveraging those relationships. And then when they're thinking about a project and they're talking to their big company client, they say, I know a guy. This guy's in a small law firm, but I think he's got the mojo to work for you. And that's how I started getting business clients. When you don't just go walking around cold calling companies, you're never going to get anywhere with that. But at least certainly in my business, but it's a business of relationships. So you make those relationships, just like you said, with partnering with agencies. In my case, partner with other professionals who are connectors, leverage those connections to meet more people, and you start building a business.
That's such good advice. And that's I think if you're going to build any professional service business, the very first thing you need to do is network with other agencies. And again, I talk about this in the course, with other agencies that do exactly what you do, and then other agencies that do totally different shit than what you do. Right. And the benefits of that are, one, now you're going to make less mistakes if you don't know what you're doing because you have someone that can maybe mentor you. But two, now you have connections to people that they might be able to send you business. You might be able to add value to them and send them business.
Yep. And like I can't stress enough about listening. When you go to those business lunches, it's not just a BS session. It's all about what can you do for them? What can they do for you? Ask them how they build their business. You'll learn so much in an hour, keeping your ears open and your mouth shut, and you're building that relationship, and then you're able to leverage that later. The other thing I would say is model somebody that has already done it. So find people in your industry that have succeeded. Figure out what they did. They'll usually write a book about it, or they'll brag about it, or they'll tell you if you call them, and do what they did. It's not a lot of this isn't rocket science. You usually find out it was a lot of hard work, and they did A, B, C, D, and this is how they got there. They didn't just magically appear as a successful lawyer, in my case, at age 45. What were the steps they took? And ask, people will tell you.
100%. If I was going to start a divorce law firm tomorrow, you'd be the first person I talk to, which you're doing now, right? Like you're launching kind of like a consulting business for divorce law firm, or people that want to build a divorce law firm.
Actually, for people who want to build law firms in general. So that's something I'm working on. I want to launch. So it's a passion of mine, and I'd like to do that as well. So that's part of what I'm working on as well. So it's a matter of find those people that have been successful and model what you're doing after them. And what you're doing with the project, and why I appreciate the project a lot, is you're giving that to everyone for free. You're putting out the how-to stuff at no cost. All people really need to do is watch your videos and that course and take it to heart and start executing. You're showing 1, 2, 3 how it can work. You didn't have a coffee company 9 months ago.
100%. And the worst insult that people can give is to go through that stuff and just not take any action. Right. So take action, guys. Like, come on, stop asking all these questions, go get mentors and just take action, and then look at the results and then learn as you go. We'll do one more question. How are you doing on time, by the way, Raif?
Oh, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll do one more question. Usually we just do these for about an hour. The person that asked that original B2B question said, specialize them form partnerships for connections and credentials. Thank you so much. Yeah. So again, just to reiterate, definitely just reach out to as many other businesses as possible. And the way you do this is really easy. I have videos on this. You can go through the course, but just cold email those business owners and just say, hey, I also run an agency, or I run an agency that does this. And I use humbleness. Like, if you go through the course, by the way, you'll see the messages, the emails I've sent people. And it's like, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. That's literally the email is like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you don't want to go that far right with it or left. You do want to like have some credibility if you can, but you just cold email them and pretty much say, I do this, you do this. I'd love to learn more about what you do. And maybe I can send you business, or again, try to figure out how you can add value to the person. But I use Rocket Reach to get their email. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, and people love telling you their story, and nobody asks them. I mean, nobody reaches out to me and says, "Tell me how you did it." I would love to brag about it for an hour or whatever. I mean,
a lot of people would. So
yeah, it's fun, and actually you learn something in the process. But I mean, it's not always bragging. There's some humility. There's some failures too, right? A lot of crashing on the way to flying. So, but it's like, put yourself out there, and people respond to that. They really do. People are human, and they get it. They were there too. They didn't start out magically with $1 million in the bank. You know, right now, if you have more time than money, which is typical, leverage the time. Now I have more money than time. So now I have to spend money to buy time. So hire people like Mike, other agencies to do work that I don't have time to do. So when it's the other way around, when you have time, that's actually a pretty awesome thing to have that kind of time to be able to invest. So, you know, use it wisely and don't watch Netflix all the time. Yeah.
That's the main, the whole point of this whole conversation is stop watching fucking Netflix, guys.
We don't mean to pick on any one company. Okay.
We'll do this last question, which is it's kind of okay. So the person's asking a question about the course. So again, the course, what I tell people to do when they're first starting is cold email technical mentors and cold email other agencies. So like what a technical expert is and this is more specifically for someone that doesn't have an expertise. Like if we started a design company together, the technical expert is going to be like cold email people that are really good at design. Whereas like if you're cold emailing agencies, the agency owners, those are people that actually run agencies. So the big difference, and if you're starting again, you don't want to just cold email agencies. You want to find people that do the technical of whatever you do. So then one, you can probably leverage them if you need to hire someone really quick, or two, they might know someone, and three, like you can learn more about that type of stuff, and they could even potentially validate people that you're interviewing. Right. The difference between that and the agency owner is pretty obvious, where the agency owner is more, the reason for the relationship is like understanding more about the business of running whatever the agency is that you're running, hiring, managing, client acquisition, etc. It's also potentially getting business. It's also potentially sending business. Whereas the technical person is really trying to gain an expertise internally in terms of learning the technical. So
one thing I would say, Mike, on that B2B question is, this comes up in the law office management, marketing side, is figure out who the decider is. So, and that some people say, well, how do I market a business? Because it's this faceless company. Find the face that matters. Somebody in that company is making the decisions, and they can be marketed person to person, just like you would any other person. So who's the decider? That's the person to target and contact, not just send an email to info@mcdonalds.com to find out, I want to work for McDonald's. Well, that's going to bounce. Nobody's going to see that. But if you find out that so-and-so is the head of X for the Midwest region, and that's the person who's deciding, you do a little homework online, figure out who that person is. That's the person to target and contact, because they'll respond. And you don't have to weave your way through a maze to find out who the actual person is. You got to do a little.
Which is super easy, by the way. You just use LinkedIn and then use Rocket Reach to get the email. That's what I do. It's
these
straightforward.
Tech tools make things that were once impossible possible. You never knew so-and-so was the VP of sales for the Midwest region at McDonald's back in the day, unless you knew the guy down the street or read some article in a business newspaper. And you get, what, you're going to walk up to the front door of the headquarters and knock it. It didn't work like that. So it used to be all about who you knew. Now you can find out who it is, and with free tools.
100%. Raif, thanks so much for jumping on here. People want to learn more about you or the consulting stuff that you're doing now to help other lawyers start law firms and grow law firms as big as if you've been able to with your law firm. How can people find out more about you and what you guys do?
Well, the divorce firm is STG Divorce Law, STG Divorce Law Online. We're in Illinois, so we're an Illinois divorce firm. We don't do divorce outside of the state, but we do can refer people out of state if they have cases outside. My other site is winninglawyers.net, and Winning Lawyers is our consulting business. So we have started that recently. We're excited about it. Want to help lawyers and law firms grow. So thank you very much for your time and the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, this was super fun, man. It's always, like always, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations outside of this. It's always fun talking to you. And again, if you guys do want to learn more about Raif, I'll put the link in the description to his with all his info for both his consulting business for law firms and as well as the STG law firm link and all that. So Raif, thanks so much for joining. I'm sure a lot of people got a lot of value hearing your story, and going from 0 to 20 plus employees that whole situation is pretty cool. And just hearing from someone that runs a 20 plus person business, I think is it's really cool for anyone that is running an agency, because again, the operations are very similar. So thanks so much for hopping on. I appreciate the time.
You're doing the project. It's an inspiration to me and our team, and I hope for a lot of people out there, because it shows that this is all possible, and people shouldn't despair. They should just get up and get moving, because the opportunity is all out there if you're willing to take it. Thanks very much.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll talk to you, Raif.
Thanks. Bye.
See you, everyone.